Good evening, everybody. We are so happy to be back with you again this week, and we just wanted to say welcome. If you're joining us for the first time, we are Emerge, and we're here every single Wednesday at 8 o'clock Central Standard Time. If you are joining us for the first time, you can also go to our platforms at Ready to Emerge and you can watch all of the episodes from our previous seasons. We are now in season 5. I can't believe it.
We only have a couple more episodes to go.
Yeah, this is episode 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we only have.
That's so important.
It's impressive.
We've had I think over 50 episodes.
Yes. Hi, Althea
Hi, Althea.
from New York.
Look.
So, for those of you that are joining us for the first time, I am Catherine Goodall and I am a part of the Emerge Trio. I'm very happy to be here and I'm excited about tonight's show. Welcome.
Hi guys, my name is Naomi Garrick, also known as a PR Chick, and I'm in PR Chick Pink tonight in support of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And I'm also a part of the Emerge Trio. As a personal branding coach, I really help individuals to stand out in a noisy world by getting that clarity that's necessary to really understand their unique offering that they have for their ideal audience.
You finished?
Why does Rochelle always do this?
Every week.
Pause.
Like you said, over to you.
Over to you, Rochelle.
Great intro, Nye. My name is Rochelle Cameron. I'm an attorney at law and CEO of Prescient Consulting Services, a boutique firm that deals with business development, your people issues, your legal issues, your crisis communication. So unlike Nye talks about the good things, I'm like when you have the bad things happen and you need to fix them. Like Olivia Pope. And then I give it to Nye to make it sound better.
Make it pretty. To make it pretty. So, we first want to say thank you to our partner Sagicor, who has been absolutely amazing on this journey with us this year. As usual, we want to know where you're joining us from. So we see Althea from New York, Fiona from Connecticut, Laurie, I want to say from Canada. Is that where you are still? Hi, Rochelle. So welcome, everybody. So we all know that in October, we celebrate Breast Cancer Awareness Month. It's a month where we focus on not just awareness and talking about all things breast cancer, but it's also about raising money for research, for treatment. And so, we couldn't let October pass without having this conversation because it's something that has impacted all of us at some point. We have loved ones, we have people that we know. For me, I mean, this past 2 years in particular has been particularly a struggle with this topic and cancer in general. So we wanted to make sure that, we spent some time to really talk about it because it's so important. Denzi from Florida. Hi, Denzi. Mr. Kid, you made it. Hi, Richard. Hey, Andrew, the amount of messages that I have gotten since we posted that Andrina is going to be on the show tonight. So right away, over to you, Roshi.
Over to me.
Yes.
Ladies, I'm just gonna say that we're gonna need to work on our cues.
Yeah.
Like, but
five seasons later.
Yes, even like sometimes, and then worse too. It's like I'm not seeing out of my contacts. I'm wondering if I have the two of them in my eye. Me can't see with them. Me can't see without them. So I need a whole new prescription. I would say I'm a hot mess, but I'm not. I just can't see with my contacts. Ladies and gentlemen, I mean, tonight is particularly exciting for us just because we have the lady Andrena. Just because. So wherever you are, just start giving her some applause. Tonight is one of those where you sit down properly and you start calling up your friends and your family and your neighbors. And in your WhatsApp group, sometimes you chat about this and tell everybody that they need
send
to
this out again in my WhatsApp group
yes,
right now.
Yes, please. No, you know, Andrina has a way of saying things like, she's the everyday wife, mother, sister, and career girl. And you say to yourself, like, that's what you consider to be
Every
everyday?
day.
Ain't every day. She is an extraordinary human being who is also wife, mother, sister, friend, and career girl. And tonight, she's also adding to it that she is motivator and inspiration to so many of us. She has taken a journey that she is transporting us on that journey, and she is waving that flag of overcomer, of advisor, of through the dark times seeing the light and showing us it can be done. So can you imagine this? She migrates to Canada with her family, Jomo, her husband of 15 years, and is her husband, because when you're in love with your husband, him name husband, her husband, 15 years. She has a 19-year-old daughter, Aria, and a 15-year-old son, Jomo Zion. So she moves with them to Canada in 2016. By the way, we just saw Jomo in Tall. So ladies, if you have any nice daughter up there, fix them up for Jomo. So in 2019, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. She was, guess what? 41 years old. Prime of her life, starting out in somewhere new, and she gets a breast cancer diagnosis. Notwithstanding, she is passionate about spreading a message of early detection and self examination. And she credits two Bible verses with bringing her hope, peace, and healing. 1 John 4:18. There is no fear in love. Perfect love casts out fear. And Isaiah 6:8. Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send and who will go for us? And I said, here, Lord, here am I, send me. And here she is. So with all of this, you say to yourself, so where she find time for like other things? Because she has said, send me. She has come to us. She's sharing her journey with us. But with all of that, she did on Peloton, the ad for the Peloton, and you see them, a Peloton, a yoga.
And they're like, come on, Peloton.
Peloton. She enjoys
Ali Love is my favorite.
hugging trees because she takes time just to smell the roses and to admire and appreciate all that she has. She loves visiting new places, listening to music, dancing, and yoga. But most of all, she likes to have the opportunity to share with others her journey and the beauty that life is when you just pour everything. So she ain't no everyday girl. This extraordinary, phenomenal woman, please, on your feet as we welcome Andrena McMayo.
Rochelle is a real vibes master.
Oh gosh. Hi, Andrena.
Hi, Nai.
We are so excited and happy to have you on our show tonight as our breast cancer thriver. For those who joined us last year, we had an episode where we had 3 breast cancer thrivers right here in Jamaica sharing their different experiences and how they're still overcoming, their diagnosis. And tonight we really have the pleasure of hearing Andrena's story. Andrena is not in Kingston, Jamaica, as you heard. She's in Canada, but she is a Jamaican through and through. And she's going to share with us tonight this journey. So we wanted to tell you, thank you, Andrena. Thank you for trusting us with your story. Thank you for saying yes to being a guest on our platform. We know that we're ready to learn, and we know our audience is ready to learn. And we're just excited about the lives that will be impacted tonight just by you being, open and authentic and sharing your journey through breast cancer. So to start, we want to get to know you a little bit more. So we want to hear a little bit about your pre-diagnosis journey. So the things that led up to you deciding to make this big move to Canada with your family, taking a Jani's best friend all the way to Canada. And then also, we'll get into post-diagnosis, but tell us about the journey leading up to you and this big move to Canada.
Yeah, so, Canada was like accidental, coincidental, not very planned. I think what really just pushed us to move was that my husband was actually living in Trinidad at the time, was working in Trinidad at the time. And I thought that moving to Canada was an opportunity for our family to be together again. Um, in his field, there were limited opportunities in Jamaica. And so, it was, to be quite honest, there was no way it was going to be sustainable for a husband to be in Trinidad and a wife to be in Jamaica and for our family to continue to thrive. And Jomo was very involved with the kids, and his absence was like it left a big hole in our family. So I think that's really what kind of, I would say, prompted that move. A friend literally said to me, somebody who had worked at VMBS with, he texted me one day and said, "Dreams, Canada, open up back." That's what my friends call me. I heard you say Richard was on.
Yes.
Yes, I was wondering if Richard was that friend that you're referring to.
No, Richard is not that friend, but he calls me Dreams too. So yeah, so I think maybe it's a VMBS thing. I'm not sure, but so I've an ex VMBS colleague of mine texted me and said, that they had opened back up. Canada does this thing called the skill worker program at the time that they had stopped. It was going to be the last cohort of the skilled worker program because they had retired that program and changed it to something else. So it's now express entry or something. And so he's like, you just need to apply and get in. And I'm like, okay, because I'd inquired about it, but just in passing, like I wasn't serious. And that's kind of how, funny enough, life just takes you on a journey without sometimes it just not being what you had planned, because we had just built our house, and Naomi knows this.
Yes.
And blood, sweat, and tears to actually build that house. It took a long time. And when we finally got it to where we wanted, then we decided to move, basically.
I feel like it was just very random, Andrina. Like I remember probably one day at school or something, and you're just like, almost like, by the way, we're moving to Canada.
I mean, that's really how it was. It was like not very planned. That was supposed to be our dream house. Like the way I finished it was supposed to be a house that I lived in, not a house that would eventually be tenanted. And so, that's just really our journey. And then what made it, I guess, harder or more urgent for me is, so my sister and I were very, very close. And when I decided to apply to Canada, I encouraged her as well to apply along with me. And she applied and moved. So like we applied the 2014, and then 2015, she said she's moving. And I'm like, so fast, that's not really the plan. And that was really hard for me. So no, my husband is away and my sister is away. And that was really, really hard. I felt like the dynamic of my life completely changed.
Yeah.
And so, and my children felt that as well. Like their aunts who they were very close to, plus their cousins who they were very close to, had moved away. And so I started to kind of say, okay, well, I guess I'm just going to start planning to go. Because I was like, well, I have this thing now, but maybe a couple years, I'm not quite ready yet. And, that's what kind of made it urgent. And then, like I said, Jomo was away. And so that's how we really ended up in Canada, because I had built a life in Jamaica. I had a career. I did fairly well. The children were very settled. They were well-adjusted children, like they loved their lives. They had very good lives, as children in Jamaica really do, quite honestly.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're not always aware of the privilege that they have, but there's a lot of privilege there. So that's basically how we ended up in Canada.
Yeah. And then when you got to Canada now, everybody's getting settled, the kids are getting ready for school, you're starting a new job and everything. Tell us about what led to you being diagnosed with breast cancer.
Yeah, so I mean, I'd moved to Canada. So August 2016, we actually moved here August 1st, 2016, because like I'm a planner and I'm obsessed about planning things. And so I was going to live in my house until July 31st, and the tenant was going to take over August 1st, that kind of thing, like OCD. So I mean, very A-type personality when it comes on to those type of things. Um, so we moved here August 1st, didn't have anywhere to live, essentially. Moved completely to a new country, stayed with a friend for a week, and then rented a place without any job or anything like that. I didn't stay with family. I don't have family here, but my husband does have some family, but he wasn't very close to them. He didn't grow up with them or anything. So we just, we were used to basically doing everything on our own. Joma and I have been together since I was 21. And so we were kind of used to that where we're toughing it out and, just starting life over. Like we've done that so many times, just moved and just settled. So that wasn't super hard for us, but it was harder because we had children.
Yeah.
So that made it hard. Um, so yeah, came to Canada August, and I just immersed myself into the whole finding a job thing. That was a lot easier than I anticipated. Joma got a job a lot faster than me, but it was actually not as hard as I had anticipated. I just made my job finding a job, um, networked and marketed myself. So I spent a lot of time um, creating that kind of network and meeting people and applying for jobs. So it didn't take me very long. I probably changed like 4 jobs in the first year, just trying to find that right fit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as well as I was fairly senior in Jamaica, and then I'd come here, started out from the bottom. Like the first role I got was an internship, and that was fine. It was like at TD Bank. I'm like, okay, I'll try it. Um, but within a month, I gotten like a real job, and then I got like 3 offers, and so I was kind of bouncing around a little bit, trying to navigate. And then I feel like one of the things that was hard for me was just maybe being hard on myself to say, well, trying to prove to myself that I could get back to where I was in Jamaica. I think I had placed that kind of, you
Pressure.
know, pressure on myself. Yeah, to just kind of like, and there was always this thing where people are gonna say,
Mm-hmm.
um, me left me yard and come to foreign to suffer. There were always those things, obviously, that I thought about. And just also, I've always been very driven and ambitious. And so I think for me, doing well was important. And how I would say that how I judged whether I did well or not was how well I did professionally. So I changed a number of jobs. And that's in itself really hard because you're constantly starting over, never settling down. Um, and I had some negative experiences. I think for the first time I experienced racism, didn't know what it was. Um, Went through a really rough time with that. Like, okay, what's going on here? But then eventually I went to like a really large organization. I was at Scotiabank. Um, Spent like a year there, and it was good. I feel like the Scotiabank role kind of set me up. Used a lot of my skills that I had in Jamaica, even though I was a treasury professional in Jamaica. That was my area. When I came to Canada, payments was like a big thing, and I'm like, why is payments a big thing? So, because here things are more specialized, so that was something that I had to kind of transform myself as well to find out what are those skills that I had that were transferable.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was able to like kind of create that niche for myself. Um, and that was cool because I did like a lot of payments related work in Jamaica in Treasury. I mean, we're a tourism economy, there's a lot of money movement. Treasury does have a lot of payments elements to it. And so, uh, not too long after being at Scotiabank, people actually started reaching out to me, like recruiters would reach out to me all the time. And I'm like, okay, I'm digging this, this kind of foreign thing where people are reach out to me for job. And then one of those recruiters eventually was Walmart Canada. And I ended up at Walmart as their senior product manager for payments. So that's the space I'm in now, is product management. Um, I went to Walmart for a couple of reasons. So Walmart's head office, it was in Mississauga at the time, which is where I lived. And I needed to be closer to my children, especially my daughter. Like I felt, so the commute here is really, you have to run, go catch train, and you leave work very early. And whether it's snow or rain, you have to be
You
there.
have to be at work.
You have to be at work. And so, I would, and the same thing in the evening, like 5 o'clock, and you're trying to catch the 5:10 train, and you're running down and catch a train, and it takes 40 minutes to get where you're going. And so I wasn't home until maybe 6:37 sometimes. And my daughter was at that very, I would say, sensitive age. She was a teenager, maybe 14, 15, and she was struggling. It was a very hard age for her to move. So she moved here when she was 14. Very difficult to adjust socially at that age. There are already so many social pressures. And she had a hard time initially, and I took that on. Like I had a lot of guilt. I really carried a lot of guilt. I felt so terrible all the time. Every day it consumed me that I'd taken my children from otherwise good lives for I'm not quite sure which reason. Like I'm saying,
Why? Women live good Jamaica.
exactly.
Yeah.
And,
To go take train for 40 minutes and
oh my
as you
God.
said, stand up in the cold.
And I'm telling you something, that Canada is very expensive. So when we moved here, like I think we both were settled in jobs after about 3 months, but the kind of money that you spend for 3 months could carry you for a full year in Jamaica or more, right? It's very expensive. So, there was that stress as well to get back financially stable, to provide the kind of life that your children are used to. And I felt a lot of pressure for myself. Like, my son was a competitive swimmer at the time, and I needed to get him in a club. And so there was a lot of financial pressure to be able to give them the life that they had in Jamaica. So when I came here, we bought a car without having a job. We rented an expensive condo without having a job. So just to be able to give them that life that they had in Jamaica, I didn't. If I was like, no, this is my responsibility. I must not transfer that stress to them. So I took on all of that.
And it's funny as you're telling the story, Andrina, because when we sometimes we don't appreciate that, although the dollar may not strong some days, most days not strong. That we live, when you can live a good life in Jamaica, it can be a pretty good life, and you move away to big foreign, snow foreign, and you're trying to almost recreate that experience there.
Yes.
You move the children, you're trying to recreate it. As you're talking about, because I can see you with your list and stuff, because I'm like that too, like this up to Dubai, then this, and that's what I'm doing. So, as you're speaking, I'm saying, so how does a diagnosis come in all of this? Because that not depend the list, non-tal.
Yes, so I say all of that to say that for me, I took on a lot of stress and I internalized it as well, because so here's the thing, like, because I felt like I was the architect of this move, I didn't want to complain or even say to anyone, hey, I'm feeling stressed out, did I do the right thing? So I didn't say that. That was not something that was communicated to my husband or anyone else. I just absorbed all of that.
Yeah. So you said greetings from foreign, like fun, they said Christmas greetings. Hi, this is Andrina from in Canada. I just want to say hi to my friend and family them into Jamaica. Having a great time.
Exactly. that would be the message that I would have communicated, because I don't want anybody to know that I'm doubting.
Yes.
And as I say, take full responsibility because I feel like I'm the architect of this. And so
Yeah.
my life between 2016 and 2019 was just a grind, a full
Mm-hmm.
grind. Like I'm just grinding away. I'm working hard to prove myself, learning this new culture,
Yeah.
uh, just taking care of the children. And here's the thing, like my children always had like a nanny, like a living helper, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not only did they have it, I had it too. So I don't have that anymore. And that was like big stressor for me, like
Yeah.
clean house and cook dinner.
Wash clothes.
And oh my God.
All the things.
And I was not really, I'm not really cut out for that. I won't, it's hard for me to this day, right? And I'm a country girl,
Sound
and
like you're related to Rochelle.
anyone
You
who
know her?
sings.
Oh, so they love when foreign on TV and real foreign is two different foreign. It is
Two
very
different
Yeah.
things.
I
mm-hmm.
mean, they give you a lot of tools to be able to survive, right?
Yeah, why?
They
Mm-hmm.
give you a lot of tools, but it's because you need them. So, you know,
But that
um,
extra help is
Yeah.
it's a pretty
so,
penny.
and so like, it was just, listen, I know a lot of people out there have it harder, but I'm just keeping it real that for me it is rough because me never used to have to come home and cook no dinner. Like I was not used to that. It's just what it is. And so I had to take on all of that, and it was like a lot of stress on top of like all the guilt that I felt. So anyway, 2019 now. So summer had just basically ended. I wasn't feeling well. Like there were things that were going on with me leading up to that time, starting in Jamaica actually. So that year before I left Jamaica, I had really bad vertigo, like out of nowhere one day. I don't know if Naomi remembers this, but I had
Mm-hmm.
really bad vertigo. I lived on the hill and I was afraid to drive down. And I went to the doctor at the time, and he said, I remember I went to Dr. Chang, and he's an older ENT, and he said, I'm going to tell you something that no other ENT will tell you. I'm only telling you because I'm a really old man and I just keep it real. Like what you're experiencing is as a result of cortisol. I'm like, what is that? He's like, I just truly believe that you're having a lot of stress and there's like a cortisol imbalance going on, which is causing the vertigo. No, it's the first time I'm hearing that something like that could potentially cause like vertigo. So anyway, when I moved to Canada, it had disappeared. I didn't have that problem anymore, but I started having like other problems, really bad insomnia, um, which also comes from the stress too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I started growing a lot of hair under my chin. Um, I didn't, I just got rid of it. Um, and then closer to the time that I was diagnosed, I started having incredibly painful, like my breasts were really painful. And I thought it was normal. I really did because I always have breast pain close to the time when I'm having my period. So I just thought, hey, it's normal. But it got so bad that I felt like I would think that I'm pregnant. I'm like, no, Joma, no, I'm pregnant because my breasts are like, so I would
Yes.
constantly think I'm pregnant. Like, I all the time I'm telling him, hey, no, I'm this month I'm definitely sure that I got pregnant. So
Wow. Yeah.
um the breast pain had become so bad. And then periods, I remember this one day, like I was literally having my period, and it was like someone just turned on a faucet, and I'm like, oh my God, what the hell is going on? Like something is not right. So anyway, uh these 2 days, so it was the end of October, beginning of November, I had such bad insomnia. This is the worst that it had gotten. I was up for 48 hours straight, no sleep. And I literally just, I mean, I was not functional. And I had a lot of brain fogginess as well. I just didn't know what was going on with me. And I remember being at Walmart and just crying, just Like I couldn't control myself. I'm just crying, and I came home, and I took that Thursday and Friday off work, and I went to my doctor, and she actually gave me sleeping tablets. She said, "Listen,
Yeah, I forget to
there
unsnap.
is no shame in taking the sleeping tablets. It is much worse for you to not be sleeping for 48 hours." Okay, because at this
Yeah.
time I felt like I was going crazy. So I took the sleeping tablets, and then I was feeling okay. The Sunday now, so one of the things about me is I'm an incessant bather. Like it's I don't know, it's like a vice that I have. Like I grew up in Santa Cruz. And it was very hot. And so listen, I grew up, I never have no fan when we just, I mean, in the early days. So what I used to do to stay cool was no wear no clothes, so I always had multiple battery riders, and bathe a lot. So,
We
and
beard
that's
Dr. Andrena, so you have to explain to them. Beard, enough. So
so,
many
and when
more.
I came to Canada, I had that habit still, and
And
people
he
would say to
cool.
me, and it cold, and the mother said, no, it go dry out the skin, but I don't know how to do it different. And my pitney them stay the same way, so they go in bed morning and night, because like, if them sick, I send them to bed. I'm like, listen, if you go bed, you go feel better. It's
Feel
just
better. Make everything better.
make everything better. Oh my God, Rachel, how you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Because sometimes you feel away and
Maybe
dirty. If you go bathe, you feel better.
yeah, man, I tell them that all the time. So, anyways, that Sunday I had 2 showers already, no joke, and I was in bed, and I'm like trying not to relax to sleep to go to work the Monday. I'm like, I need to fall asleep, and I was trying not to take anything,
anything.
and I was like, let me just have a next shower too, like I felt this thing, and I keep fighting myself. I'm like, I've been trying to just have 2 showers for the day, because truly it was really drying up my skin for true, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but I just had this strong, like, I don't know, like a voice inside just tell me if you go bed. I mean, I fight the voice, and the voice I tell me go bed, go bed, go bed. And um I went into the shower, and the rest of it is kind of like a daze for me, because I don't know how it got from me going into the shower to me finding a lump in my breast, because it's so random. Like, it's late at night. Why would I be even doing a breast exam at that time in the night? So I don't
And
really
you had two
remember.
showers previously.
And
This
I
is
had two
shower
showers
number three.
previously. Yeah, this is shower number 3. And I, I tell people that I think God whispered in my ear, and that so the September, so just leading up to that period, I had actually been seeing a counselor, because I was going through all of these things. And like I said, I didn't want to transfer that negativity, or what I felt was negativity, to my family. And I was seeing a counselor my mother-in-law had recommended me to. She's a pastoral counselor, actually. She's a Seventh-day Adventist pastoral counselor. I'm not an Adventist. And that's significant for me, because it's just an unlikely pairing. So
Mm-hmm.
anyway, she had invited me to church one day, because she was hosting a conference, and the conference was in my community. She actually lived really far, so she would take her time she worked in Toronto, and she lived in Hamilton, but where I live was Mississauga, was like in the middle of that. So I mean, it far, right? Like, it would be like from Kingston to St. Elizabeth then, but it's just
Mm.
a highway, so it don't look as far, right? So she would stop by me in the evenings, and we would have like counseling sessions, and she became my friend. So she was having this convention, and she said, just come with me, and I wanted to go to Shore Support, because she was so kind to me. Like, she took so many evenings. I would offer her, can I pay you? She didn't want anything. She just wanted to help me. Anyway, that time, it was like September, and I went to church with her, and I felt God calling me literally. I just said, I'm going to answer this call, because I've never had that feeling before, like something is calling me. So how I mean, I got baptized that day, completely unplanned. It's not like I was going to church and studying Bible and things like that.
Yes.
So, um, and so, that process led me to believe that the gift that I received from having been baptized was getting the gift of the Holy Spirit, right? That is what I received. And so I truly believe that that Sunday was the Holy Spirit inside of me. That conviction that I felt was the Holy Spirit saying to me, go and take a shower and check your breast, because there's more significance to it. Because if I lay down in the bed and did a breast self-exam, I did not feel that lump.
Mm-hmm.
I had to be standing, and so like even when I went to the doctor, so I went to the doctor the next day. So it was kind of weird. I remember like I called Jomo and I said, Jomo, feel this. You feel something? And him feel this one and him feel this one. And him say, yeah, something is there. You have to go. And I'm like, but I was off work Thursday and Friday. So him say, no business, you have to go. Tomorrow you have to go. And so, I remember texting my director the day, and I'm like, Alyssa, listen, I can't come in. This is what happened. But also God places other people in your life that you really need, because Alyssa had recently come back from breast cancer treatment. So she didn't hesitate to say 100% go to the doctor straight away. In fact, she was like, don't go to the doctor, go to the emergency room. And this is what you must tell them, because she had gone through it. And her story, she had gone to the doctor first and they didn't think it was anything. And so she didn't want that to be my situation. So anyway, I went to the doctor and she felt it and she said, I don't think you need to worry. It doesn't feel like cancer to me. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know that cancer had a feeling. And I felt good. Like, I'm like, what cancer feel like? Because I'm like, tell me, because I want to check now to make sure that man really don't feel like that. And she said, usually it's rough because the cells are disorganized. And like, I'm like, yeah, it's rough for true, so I feel a little good. And I say, all right. She's like, but I'm going to send you for ultrasound. I'm not going to stop there. So she sent me for ultrasound. So the ultrasound came back and it never gave any conclusive findings. It just said, essentially refer for a mammogram. So that was like the Tuesday I got the ultrasound results. The Thursday I got the mammogram appointment. I think it was a Thursday. So I did the mammogram the Thursday. By the Friday. And this was before telehealth. So every day I'm in the doctor's office. So she would call me and say, Andrena, I need to see her. And I'm like, okay, something is not right, And it's Canada, so I don't pay to go doctor. And the doctor, them love for you to come because they get paid. I don't pay when they get paid.
Yeah.
So that week I saw the doctor maybe 3 times. So I did the mammogram. And then by the Friday, she called me and said, I'm referring you for a biopsy. The mammogram essentially came back and there's some suspicious, they call it, there's a way that they term it. Like they said that there are some suspicious things in the left breast and the right breast is unremarkable, right? I think it's pretty remarkable, but anyway. So I was referred for a biopsy. So when that happens, the biopsy is conducted by a breast surgeon. So by the Friday evening, the breast surgeon's office called me to say that they had gotten this referral from Dr. Amal, and to come in the following Thursday to do the biopsy. So went for the biopsy the Thursday, and then the following Thursday I was diagnosed. I remember saying to the doctor, but listen, my doctor told me that it didn't feel like cancer, like she said it felt regular. And he said to me that a lot of times the tumors are like turned on their side. And so you're not feeling like the larger surface of the tumor. So you're just feeling this little narrow piece. And so it's very hard. And he says, and I mean, not that I blame Dr. Amal or anything, because she always insisted that, listen, we need to still find out.
Right.
Right. I think she was trying to make me not feel overwhelmed or too anxious or panic, right? So that Thursday, which was November 21st, I was diagnosed. Jomo was there. He went to the biopsy with me as well. He went to the when I was getting the results for the biopsy, which was a daze for me because I remember the day after I got the biopsy results, I called that doctor and I was well cussing him that he never tell me this and never tell me that, because by that time now the next day I read every book possible. And I'm like, how come you never tell me this? How come you never tell me that? Blah, blah, blah. And also, he had given me two options, which I was completely unprepared to decide. He's like, well, listen, if you want to do a lumpectomy, we can do it next week, Friday. If you want to do a mastectomy, then that may not be possible until the new year. My recommendation for you is that we do a lumpectomy. So when my earring fell. Anyway, so when you have cancer, they do something called, people are used to something called grading, staging. So, stage 1, stage 2. So it's a lot more than that. So here they do something called grading as well. They probably do it in Jamaica too. So grade 1 is a low-grade cancer, not really fast-growing. And grade 3 is a high-grade cancer. It is very disorganized and it grows very fast, which is what I had. So I had a grade 3 tumor, and his advice was that we shouldn't sleep on it because it was nearing Christmas time. He thought, he said, it's going to be very hard for me to get a plastic surgeon to sync up the time so that we can, because when you're doing a mastectomy, it's the breast surgeon and the plastic surgeon that actually does the surgery. So he says, but if that's not the route that you're going, and you want to do the lumpectomy, I can do it as early as next week, Friday. So when I left his office, I'd agreed with him. So he told me, if you did a lumpectomy, you're going to have to do radiation, because they basically radiate the area around the breast to kill any potential cancer cells that may have been remaining. So I was diagnosed with ductal carcinoma in situ, which means that there's cancer in the milk duct, which hasn't broken out of the milk duct yet. So typically they call that stage 0 cancer. So if you have only ductal carcinoma in situ, then it's stage 0. And it can resolve on its own, or it can be treated. You may remove your breast. So I had ductal carcinoma in situ, and I had invasive ductal carcinoma as well. So the tumor that I felt was invasive ductal carcinoma. So at first they said it was based on the measurement and whatever, suspected that I was stage 1 cancer, meaning that they measured the tumor to be less than 2 centimeters. So how cancer staging work is this. So like I tell you, if it's in the milk duct still, or breast cancer staging, if it's in the milk duct, stage 0. If there's broken out of the milk duct and the size of the tumor is less than 2 centimeters, stage 1. If it is greater than stage 2, if it is greater than 2 centimeters, but it is in your lymph nodes, then so greater than 2 centimeters, not in your lymph nodes, it's stage 2, which is what I had. If it's in your lymph nodes, then it's like stage 2B. If it's in a different organ stage, so that's how they do it, right? So they suspected that I was stage 1, is what I was told. You can't be fully staged until they've taken out the lump and done the final pathology and the biopsy and things like that of the actual lump itself. So the other thing is they look for something called margins, like can we get clear margins? So essentially you want to cut around the tumor. You don't want to actually cut the tumor because then the cancer cells release into your lymphatic system, right? So he said, everything that I'm seeing tells me you're a really good candidate for a lumpectomy. So anyway, as I said, I was in his office and I wasn't really hearing much. So I essentially just said, okay, with a lumpectomy. So the next day I call him and I tell him he never tell me all of these things. And he said he actually told me them. And I decided anyway, after having spoken to him that day again, because he called me back. So I was talking to his receptionist and then he called me back and said, tell me what you want me to do. This is your decision. So anyway, the, the the research tells us, or the statistics tell us, that a lumpectomy with radiation has the same outcome as a mastectomy. And so I decided, based on other things that he said, like I had to do the surgery or I would have to wait until the new year and things like that. So anyway, I did the lumpectomy on November 29th, and I had the Christmas basically to recover from that. During that time, they sent the tumor away to this place in California that does a test called a Oncotype DX score. And what that test is it gives you like a score between 0 and 100, and it tells you the likelihood of recurrence. They do it to determine if you are a good candidate for chemotherapy or not, because chemotherapy is not always useful for certain early stage breast cancer. My score came back at 22, so I got that back after the holidays. 22 is not very high. Like if someone over 50 or 60 had 22, they'd probably not give them chemotherapy. So they do it based on your age, the likelihood for recurrence, things like that. So anyway, I spoke to the oncologist. It was his recommendation that I would have to do chemotherapy and then radiotherapy. So I started chemotherapy the January, and I think I completed that in March, and then started radiation in April, and I completed that in May. And so that, that was the whirlwind of my diagnosis and treatment. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Angelina, you say all of us are like just yeah, because you talk a lot about early detection in when you speak about cancer, and the early detection is so critical, because had you not detected at that time, I mean, so much would have happened. And in my head, just lining up the very thing that you use as your thing, bathing, which I like too. Like you're prompted to bathe like for the 100th time for the day. But then in this short window, so much happened, like your life just changed. And
Mm-hmm.
I know, like, or I see, hi Janice, I see Janice saying, wow. And people are saying, oh, you process, like, or you compute all of that. I mean, there must have been some fogginess and then reality and then fogginess, and like, what is going on?
And then
So
new job.
yeah, so I mean, so first of all, I posted something on LinkedIn, and it was an email that I received from my senior vice president at Walmart. So the morning that I was diagnosed, like early morning, I wrote them a letter. I didn't expect like a response back, but within maybe a couple minutes, half an hour, I got a response back from my SVP. So what I was telling them was, hey, I was diagnosed with cancer yesterday, and I'm going to have to be off for treatment, because I'd spoken to Alyssa that night, and she told me kind of like what the procedure was. Alyssa was my director, so she was my direct manager. Um, and funny enough, not funny, but Alyssa was 36 when she was diagnosed. So she was younger than me, like 5 years younger than me. She is 5 years younger than me. I was diagnosed when I was 41. So I wrote Nikolai, and another guy, Matt, was my vice president, and Alyssa. And Nikolai responded, and I mean, I think that was a start for me of knowing, hey, everything is gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay, you know. Um, so he basically penned a letter to me, an email that, I mean, he just touched on all the right things. He knew all the right things to say. You know, he understood that, hey, this is not something that anybody would want to have. This is not a diagnosis that anyone would want to receive. And he said things like, but I know you, Andrena, and I know you're going to deal with it well. And anyway, what I received from that letter was that, hey, it's going to be okay, right? Um, and the day before, like, I think something significant happened. So when I was diagnosed, at the time, my son used to do swimming, and swimming consumed all of our lives. And my husband had to go and pick up my son, and I wasn't ready to tell them. And I'm like, I don't want anything happen, because I mean, I'm serious about him swimming, and if somebody's not there to pick him up, I'm going to be thrown off center, and something is going to be off, because he's always gonna be picked up for swimming. So I told Joe, I'm like, listen, just leave me and go. Because the surgeon had given me some paper to actually go to his personal office. I was in the hospital. His office was like across the street, and he wanted me to go and sign some papers for the release to do the surgery.
Mm-hmm.
So I told Joma, it's okay, just go and pick up Zai, and I'm good, because the hospital is actually very close to my house, where I was living at the time, like a 20-minute walk maybe. So I told him, it's okay, I want to walk anyway. I just want to walk home. And so when I left the doctor's office and I was walking home, there's a store that I like called Indigo. And I was passing Indigo, and the rain just started pouring down on me, like out of nowhere, rain started fall. And I ran into Indigo. And I remember, so it was close to Christmas time, and you know that when it's Christmas in foreign place, extra pretty. And so the store was just really beautiful, and I love Indigo. Like, I love books, and I love Indigo. They do a really good job at, just the things that they sell in their store, and there's the presentation and decor. And I remember sitting in Indigo, and I just had an epiphany that I was going to essentially have to let go all of the stuff that I was carrying. All those things that I was carrying that made me have like the significant stress that I knew that I had. I'd been working on it, but I couldn't release them. I just, I'd gotten baptized, but I still couldn't release these things. I was working, still struggling. I had so much baggage that I was carrying, so much unforgiveness for myself about this disruption that I caused in my children's lives. And in Indigo that day, I had that epiphany, and I feel like I left that baggage in Indigo. Like, I feel like maybe them, them must say, oh, who come in our store and left all of this trash in here? But it's not really there. But that's how I feel. Like, I literally feel like I left garbage in their store. It was a lot of heavy baggage, and I just left it there. And I think in that moment, I made a decision, like this really deliberate decision, that I'm just going to forgive myself. And I'm going to, because I wouldn't be able to carry all of that weight plus cancer on top of that.
Yeah.
And so, that I feel like for me, that was just two significant things that happened. So when I had written to Nikolai as well, and then when he wrote back to me, and the way that he was so kind to me, I mean, at no point did he say to me, Andrena, make sure that so and so have covering your duties. And I need to explain to you that at Walmart, around Thanksgiving time, the following week was going to be Thanksgiving. I worked in e-commerce. The world is coming to an end. Everything stopped. Everybody worked till midnight. I mean, that is the grind. And so for him to just not even say, what's going to happen to your, and it's holiday time. He may have had those conversations, but he never had them with me.
Yes.
And he said, are you going to be off from tomorrow? Like, when are you? And I'm like, no, I kind of want to work up to the day that's before I have surgery. Like, I didn't want to think about it too much. Which I don't even remember working, but anyway, I went there and did what I had to do. So it was significant. That's the point of it. It was significant for Nikolai to have taken that disposition. And so his email is very important to me, and I thought I lost it because I refer to it frequently. Something that I do these days is, what I'm saying, count your blessings and name them one by one. I will name them one by one. I take stock. It's like inventory, and I'm writing them down.
Yeah.
And I'll pray about it and I count them out one by one and say, God, thank you for this. That's something that I do, and that email is something that is tangible for me, and that's something that I refer to.
It's on her LinkedIn page, folks. So if you're curious about this amazing Nikolai email, you can follow Andrena on LinkedIn and read it.
That email made me cry for sure.
Yes. And when I read it, it made me cry as well. It made me cry. I mean, the truth is, these people had no reason to be kind to me. I was at Walmart for a year. Like, I didn't think of myself as a candidate for that level of kindness, to be honest. Um, and all my colleagues were kind to me. They were so compassionate, so compassionate. I mean, Alyssa, like I said, she was my biggest advocate in all of this. Just extremely kind. Um, and she encouraged me. She's like, well, you can take short-term disability. You can actually not be here at all. And I would encourage you to do that. Having been through that journey herself, that was her advice. She's like, take the short-term disability. And that was a blessing to me. So after I did the surgery, that is how I actually found the the Bible verse. Um, there's no fear in love, because one of the things that you struggle with when you're diagnosed is fear overtakes you, like you are overcome by fear that you're going to die. Um, that's human. It's like it's cancer, right? And so I thought, hey, what I know is I know how to research. So that's, when I used to work at NCB, they used to call me Google, because that's my thing. Like, if I get a new word, I'm going to Google it. A new thing, I'm going to Google it. I'm just going to find. I'm like an information junkie.
Andrew,
And
just excuse me for a minute because I'm gonna ugly cry now. Go back.
oh gosh. So yeah, I felt overcome by fear. I had children, and I was thinking, oh my God, I don't know if I did enough to protect my family, or to plan for an eventuality like this, and something like this. And so I was really nervous, and I'm like, Joma don't even know how to pay the bills. That's the truth, right? Like, Joma gets his paycheck, it goes into an account, and I pay all the bills. Him don't know how to do it, right? And like, I've been trying to teach him, it's like, no, you're gonna be around. Don't worry about it. You're gonna be around to pay the bills. So it's all right. You don't want to learn. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's and oh my God, that's a whole other thing. But um I I went, I would say, on a journey to understand, how do I overcome this fear? And I came upon this Bible verse. Um, so it's First John 4:18 that says, "There is no fear in love; perfect love casts out fear." And that was profound for me. Like, it hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, oh my God, how did I not know this? All my entire life, I didn't know, but this is like I'm hearing something that was just life changing. You know, there is no
Mm-hmm.
fear in love, and I thought about that. So before the breast cancer diagnosis, we had actually booked to go to Florida for Christmas. And so my husband's best friend lives in Florida, and we were going to stay with his family. And I thought, um, I had this idea. I said, well, what if I could love cancer away? Um, and I thought, like, I would say it all the time to other people, and they would probably think I was ridiculous. I'm sure, like, how does someone love cancer away? And I really poured into that, like I was going to immerse myself into that Bible verse. And we have a lot of friends in Canada, in Florida, a lot of friends. In fact, we had our daughter in Florida, and you know, we had both recently completed school when we lived in Florida, and we had our daughter there. So we had like a community. And I think about how, you know, it's funny because I was obsessing. I'm like, I have this trip booked, but I'm waiting to hear from the oncologist. And I can't go if I don't hear from the oncologist because I need to start chemotherapy. And I mean, everything just worked out perfectly. Oncologist called me like a couple days before we were to go. He said, you're going to start treatment like 2 days after you come back. And I'm like, God, are you that? Like, how to work out so perfect? Honestly, I mean, it crazy. It's too coincidental to be coincidental.
Yeah.
And so I one of the other things was, so for example, I told my parents and my children, I had these discussions and they were hard. I felt like the person that was suffering the most was Jomo though. And my husband is not a talker. He's really an introvert. Um, and I felt like I had to rally the support for him because he wasn't going to rally the support for himself. Um, I thought that, you know, he needed a support system.
Yeah.
And so I gave myself, in that moment, I said, I'm going to have to tell people because I'm going to call Craig, who is his best friend, and I'm going to call Paul, I'm going to call Tarek, and I'm going to call Dax, and I'm going to tell all of these people that, listen, I was diagnosed with cancer, and this is what Jomo is going through, and you guys, I'm asking you to be there for him. And similarly with my parents, like my parents, you know, I remember my mom called me and she said, I can tell Uncle so and so. And I said, yes, mom, you can tell so and so because she too needs her support system. And that's one of the things I found, like, it's not me alone going through it. So,
Everybody, yes.
and that's one of the things now that I try to help people that are going through it. And I say, you know, my spouse telling all of these people. And one of the things that I learned is not that they're broadcasting it, but what they're really doing is seeking support because they too need a support system. And I remember same thing in Florida. This friend said, "Me can tell Marsha, or me can tell Gay," and I said, "You know what? I'm just gonna tell everybody. How about that? I'm gonna tell everybody, and that is your cue that you can tell anybody you want.
Yeah.
You know, and if you need a support system, find your support system." And so I went to Florida, and we got there probably December. I think it was Christmas Eve. Craig picked us up from the airport. And I mean, you know, when I say that Bible verse is true,
Yeah.
that Bible verse is true because I allowed myself in being vulnerable and telling them that I had this cancer diagnosis to receive love. And I received so much love. They poured into me. That's my puppy, Marley.
Hi, Marley.
Mars, what you doing? You just want to hang out with mommy? All right. Okay. So anyway,
That's a new Spartacus.
yes. He's
Guys,
just
I adopted their pit bull that I used to be terrified of
yes.
right before. That's a whole other story.
Yeah, she did that. And I'm telling you, Auntie Naomi has a very, very special place in her heart because she adopted Spartacus. I mean, Spartacus, we still cry about him to this day. My son especially, like him can't talk and don't tear up,
Yeah.
so he doesn't say his name, right? Anyway, so I went to Florida and all our friends are there. And, you know, I received so much love from those people that it was unbelievable. And I not only received love, but I also allowed myself to give that love in return. Like I was going to receive love and give love. And that's what I did. I entertained no negative thoughts.
Yes.
I just was in this place that I had never been in before. And I realized how blessed I was. I'm like, oh my God, I have all these friends. I have people that love me this way. Like, you know, so many people will traverse this earth and not have a tenth of that.
Yeah.
Um, and my husband was supported. You know, he was doing his thing. Like, you know, men are not talking about it, but They're just like there for him. And those were his day one, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, oh my God, Craig, Shelley, Jonelle, Danielle, Tori, Randy, Marsha. I mean, I can go on and on and on and on and on, maybe 30, 40, 50 people. And they all just poured into me, and I received all of that love. Um,
But
and
you
so when
would not be able to experience it, Andrina, if you had just said, we just are go keep this to yourself. We not tell nobody. We just are
Yeah.
go sit up in a Canada,
exactly,
lock up in the house. But the scripture says there is no fear in love. Perfect love casts out fear. And me tell you, me know that scripture there well, and me never understand it this way.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I did not
Yeah.
understand it this way.
When me say that scripture hit me like somebody just slapped me, like you read something and you're like, mercy God, and what is like it just knock you over. You're like, you have such a new understanding,
Yeah.
and that's what I had when I read that scripture, because I'm sure I'd read it before, but it just never had that, never spoke that
Different
volume to me.
meaning.
And I understood it in a way that I couldn't understand it before. And that's one of the things, like if you talk to my mother, she said, boy, you're strong, and I'm like, no, not really, I'm not stronger than nobody else. um but my vessel was so full with love that there was no room for fear. There was
Mm-hmm.
no room for fear. And so I came back to Canada, and I was stronger than I had ever been. My mind was clear. I was sleeping well. um Truthfully, if I'm to be honest, cancer was really a blessing to me. you know
Wow.
those things that I was carrying were toxic, and I had to release them. I had to find a way to be kind to myself. And my body was telling me cancer, and this is what I say: the cancer was just, it, the cancer was just the final message that my body sent to me, and it had been sending me these messages, and I didn't even know how to decipher them. Right? I didn't know how to add them up, because so the other thing is that the cancer was estrogen and progesterone positive. So when they talk a little bit of science now. So when they test you for cancer, they test you for three things essentially, that breast cancer anyway. So there are three known proteins that basically attach to the cancer, um, and they test you for these things. So it's estrogen, it's progesterone, and then another protein called HER2. Um, so I had estrogen and progesterone receptor positive cancer. I was HER2 negative. um, for example, like Naji, I think she was triple negative, right? So she had all negative for those things. So my cancer was hormonal. So
Mm.
all of those things that I had been experiencing, that I mentioned, the heavy period, the brain fogginess, the insomnia, the stress, the just inability to deal with those things as well, um, was just, my body was just having like this hormonal imbalance. I was out of sync. And truly, I believe that that was caused by stress. Uh, so remember when I told you about Dr. Chang and the whole cortisol thing? So one of the things that I recognized as well was that Dr. Chang was the first person who really told me anything sensible. Um, and if I'd done the research at that time, I would probably have been in a better situation, because I would have understood it, but I didn't pay attention enough. But what cortisol does, like cortisol is stress hormone, and it spikes in response to stress. And when your body gets into that state of stress, for females especially, it causes you to overproduce estrogen. So your ovaries go into like overproduction to compensate, like it's trying to balance back out the cortisol. Um,
Mm-hmm. Wow.
and so, you know, all of the things that the symptoms I was experiencing were really symptoms of this overproduction of estrogen. Estrogen imbalance can be caused by a lot of things. Um, for example, birth control pills can cause you to have estrogen imbalance. Xenoestrogens that you find in, like, these are like fake estrogens. They look like estrogen to a breast cancer cell, for example. I think of it as like a master lock. Xenoestrogens come from things like chemicals. A lot of chemicals behave, they pretend like estrogen. So they're the result on your body is estrogenic. So it's like your body's flooded with estrogen. So that's why some people who are exposed to certain chemicals, um, they will have this proliferation of tumors as well that respond, tumors that are estrogenic. Um, and there are other things, that like the food that you eat, hormones that come in from things like that as well. So the quest that I've been on, because I know that I'm estrogenic, is how do I get my body to now go back into a state of balance?
Mm-hmm.
So that is how the plant-based diet has come in. It's very disciplined. Like I was more than plant-based when I was first diagnosed. The last day I had eaten meat was like November 22nd or something like that. Um, I just went all into my research. Um, because the thing about me is, remember I told you that I had this type A personality. Um, I hate to go to a doctor and he's telling me things and I don't understand what he's saying. You know, I'm just not that kind of patient that you can tell something and then I just accept it like I need to know. So I read medical journals. I'm that kind of person. I read the research myself. Like I research on John Hopkins University research journals all the time. Like I'll because they have like an integrative oncology program. So I've done a lot of research into like integrative oncology, which is oncology that also acknowledges the role of natural therapy or therapies outside of mainstream medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it really was I don't know, like a whirlwind, but I've learned so much. So I had completely changed my diet. I was extremely disciplined. Did a lot of juicing. I had fallen off for a while, but I'm back on full force. Sometimes I'll have like, so I call this birthday season. Um, August is my son's birthday, September is my daughter's birthday, and then October is Jomo's birthday. And so, one of the things that my parents did for me is like them go all out for my birthday. Like, no matter how little them did have, I did feel like I was the only person who existed on this planet on my birthday. And I tried to do that for my children and my family. And so sometimes, like, we went out and had celebratory dinners or whatever. So um, I had like I had some fish and on Jomo's birthday, and then on Aria's birthday I had some seafood, and the other day Jomo makes some curry chicken and I have a little of that. Um, so I'm more like I want to get back to a place of strict veganism, but I've allowed myself to just exist, not in this complete state of denial, because I found that to be extremely alienating. Give you a little joke. So after I become vegan now and I went to Florida, now these are all meat eaters, Jamaicans.
All of them.
So look here, Craig took us to a family dinner. So they were having, friends of his family were having a dinner. And I'm vegan. And I'm telling you, they had like a huge
Spread.
table of food. And in that spread, I could only find rice and peas to eat. You hear me? Because there was nothing. When the meal finished, the lady that was hosting said, "Oh my God, the salad in the fridge." I'm not joking. So one of the things that I learned is that it can be extremely alienating. Like,
It's lonely.
so it's very lonely, and so I'm not as like rigid as I was at first, because also it's hard and it's not very practical, and I don't impose my just what I'm doing on other people. But so sometimes I allow myself. I remember last year I went to Banff and my sister makes some really good fried chicken, and I said, "Boy, I want a little piece of that." And so I allow myself sometimes to indulge, but largely speaking, I'm on a whole foods plant-based diet. So I really try to get my nutrition from whole foods. So
Yeah.
I eat a lot of carbohydrates. So whole heap of brown rice, quinoa, and them thing there. I eat a lot of that. Um, lately, I have a naturopath, so that's something else that is among the whole cadre of people that are working with me now. Um, and he believes in balance as well. He's like, Andrina, have a little salmon every now and then. I impose a lot of the things on myself you know, that maybe he's not telling me to do, just based on my research. Sometimes I go to him and
Right.
I'm like, no, I'm not gonna take no flaxseed oil, and and then he says, so all right, you can take the black seed oil then, we have these conversations around things like that. Um, But largely speaking, it's a whole food plant-based diet. So my nutrition largely comes from. I try to avoid processed foods as much as possible. Love Cheetos, the puffy one. Sometimes I'll
Oh,
cheat and have that.
Cheetos puffs are the best.
They're the best.
Right.
Yeah.
Orange gold, baby. Orange.
Got to do it.
Yeah.
Even though they're all watching.
And Gina, I have a question. So you talked about the love and the support that you got, but for people, for your loved ones that are there going on a journey with you, what can they do to help their loved ones that are going through that process?
So so I'll take my husband as a. I mean, I don't give him enough credit, because so my husband is an introvert, but he's also a very super easygoing, chill person. Like, to get him off his balance is a very difficult thing to do. I am able to do that very easily. Um, wives can do that, but he's a very, very patient person. And sometimes I remember I'll have conversation. Sometimes I feel really weak, and I'll say to Joma that I don't think I'm going to make it to, like, to see Aria get married, or I'm like, and I say, like, randomly, I'll say, you think I'm going to die young? And he will always say things to me like, we're going to get old together. We're going to get gray together. He always says that. So he doesn't entertain those conversations. He never gets angry. Um, and so, I've been blessed with that. Um, I can't say that it's been perfect, but I'll say that Joma has loved me perfectly, and he's been able to be a support system for me in a way that I need to be supported. Like, Joma understands that I'm obsessed with information and that I like to plan and that I get annoyed when the dishes are not washed. So he's very patient. Um, my children too. So one of the things that I did was I did have like a very real conversation with them, and I explained to them that I was diagnosed with cancer. And I told them probably the day or the day after. I don't remember when. I think it was the day after because I had swimming that day. Or because I had swimming every day. But anyway,
Yeah.
um, so I spoke to them and I explained that it was early stage breast cancer, and early stage breast cancer has the highest success rate for treatment, and that I felt really encouraged, and I think because they didn't see me fearful, and so I could see the anxiety slip away day by day from them, because they didn't see it in me, and so
Right.
if I don't have the fear, then they don't have anything to be afraid of. Um, so I'd encourage people to have those real conversations with their family. I'd also encourage people to be open, like you say, if I didn't open up myself to to just be vulnerable and let people know, I wouldn't have been able to receive that love. And
Yeah.
like, I credit that. I credit that period when I went to Florida and that openness and that love that people poured into me with where I am today in my journey, my mental health, the way I was able to approach my treatment. I was happy. I felt good. I felt loved. I felt cared for. And so there are a lot of people that can't even say the word cancer. I
Yeah.
remember my mommy said that to me, and I'm like, what that mean? She said, no, say cancer, you know, if you say it. No call, you can't. I'm like, mommy, no, that's crazy. Like, she said, no, it's true, you must say it. And I did not understand that. So, and that helped them as well because I was okay, and I was okay. So my mom came to be with me when I was going through chemotherapy. I was very grateful for that. Um, I don't discount anything like that. Not because I'm her pitney,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah.
She didn't need to come to Canada to, you know, disrupt her life in Jamaica to come here. So I'm very grateful for my parents. From the day I told my mother that I was diagnosed, she called me every single day until she got to Canada. Every single day, okay? And I would say, Mommy, we don't have anything to talk about. We just spoke, okay? She would still call me. She would say things like, you can't tell me that. Me, I call you every day.
That is
I'm
right.
sure you answer your
She's
phone.
entitled.
Exactly. She will call me every day because I'm her pitney and she took it, So the things that I encourage people to do, check your breast frequently. If I had waited on a mammogram, I'd probably be dead. Because here, if based on your risk, if you're over 40, if like you have a history of cancer in your family, which I didn't, um, you can do a mammogram before you're 50. You can do it before you're 50 if you want, but they don't really recommend it because the mammogram does have like
Yeah.
some levels of radiation and things like that. So when you're over 50, they recommend that you do it every 2 years. Every 2 years, right? So imagine if you're waiting on a mammogram to diagnose uh, cancer tumor.
Yeah.
You know how much things can happen in 2 years?
Yeah.
Like me with my grade 3 carcinoma that was fast growing.
Mhm.
So, I found that tumor because I knew what my healthy breasts felt like. And so an abnormal breast was easily detectable to me. Um, and that's the best advice. People always ask me, so what it feel like? I don't want people to get hung up on what it feels like. Just if you know what your breasts feel like, know when they're healthy. When something is off, you'll know. And
Yeah.
not just what they feel like, but what they look like. Look in the mirror at them. Know how your nipples look, the skin, the texture around it. Because I have a girlfriend in New York, and what she noticed was like dimpling on her breast, like a dent.
Yeah, that's what
That's what
happened to
she
my friend
noticed.
too.
Right. So, um, and almost 100% usually once them see that dent, that one is like a big telltale sign.
Yeah.
Some people get like rashes or crusting of their nipples or discharge. Those are things to look for as well. It's not that I'm not an advocate of mammograms. I think women should do them, but I don't think you should wait until the
It's
mammogram to
And
right.
you know what,
So
Andrea, just to add to what you said, I think it's very important to not just know your breasts, but to listen to your body.
Body.
Because based
yes,
on your story, there were so many things that were happening leading up to this diagnosis that, based on what the doctor said and everything, just pop. I mean, that would be the furthest thing away from your mind, especially if you weren't feeling anything. So I think that thing about just being just very aware when things don't feel right, especially if it's continuing for a period of time and to seek some kind of
and
expert opinion.
here's the thing, Naomi, and this is, I think, where mainstream medicine tends to fail us, which is why I don't rely on mainstream medicine or alone, because I've never gone to a doctor and they said, well, Andrina, you need to do hormonal testing. Never. not before and not after. Like I'm
Yeah.
trying to see a functional gynecologist in New York City, and that's her specialty. Like she actually tests you for your hormones. So one of the things that I want to do, so I'm on a drug called tamoxifen, and it does some really crazy things to me. Um, when I finished my, I remember when I finished my. Are we like, are we supposed to be wrapping up? Because I don't want to keep you guys. You let me know.
Yeah, we couldn't cut. So we have about 6 minutes left to wrap up. It was just too important a
Yeah.
conversation.
All right, so I'll give you the short notes, the cliff notes on the drug that I'm taking. So when I finished radiation, I started a drug called tamoxifen. So this because I started talking about where mainstream medicine fails us. I remember when my doctor told me I'm gonna have to take tamoxifen for 5 years. Tamoxifen is an estrogen blocker. So I'm like, well, so why we not fix why me I overproduce instead of trying to block the estrogen from my
But
body?
yeah.
And gave me some all kind of roundabout thing, and I'm like, interesting. But he was very convinced that tamoxifen was important for my, and the statistics actually tells you that like tamoxifen save people life, right?
Mhm.
Um, and so I was resistant and rebellious, but I did take the tamoxifen, um, and it tamoxifen did some really crazy things to me. So first of all, I had significant bone pain, like I'd be walking and I felt like I was on needles. So I remember one day I called my oncologist and I was just bawling and I cussed him off. And I told him that I've been trying to reach him and I can't get him. He can give me this drug and I'm like in so much pain and him tell me to take Advil. And I'm like, so me I gonna live on Advil? I didn't say it like that to him because he wouldn't understand. But
Right.
like that was the thing that for me, I'm like, I cannot live on Advil. And then him saying, you must take Advil, but drink whole heap of water because it will mash up your kidneys. So I'm like, okay, so I'm going to take tamoxifen. I'm going to take the Advil to prevent the pain or the tamoxifen will cause me. All right. Anyway, I did that for a little while. Then I started seeing a naturopath and I did a lot of vitamin C treatments. So IV vitamin C treatments, I did that like every 2 weeks. And that really helped in managing the pain. Um, so when I did my chemotherapy, like the second round of chemotherapy, I did 4 rounds of chemotherapy. The second round of chemotherapy, my period left and it never came back until the September. So that was like the March. I didn't have a period until the September. So anyway, my period came back and it never left, essentially. I just bled and bled and bled and bled and bled and bled.
Wow.
And so anyway, eventually gynecologists, oncologists, they all determined that I had like tamoxifen induced hyperplasia. Um, and I'd grown polyps on my uterus as a result of this tamoxifen. So what it doing? So tamoxifen is called a selective estrogen receptive blockers, right? So it block estrogen from your breast cells. So, so for example, if you have a breast cancer metastasis to your lungs, it's not lung cancer you're having, it's breast cancer same way. The pathology is still the same as the original cancer, right?
Wow.
So they I was on this tamoxifen. They discovered that I had these polyps, which was causing me to just bleed constantly. So I removed the polyps. My doctor at the time had recommended for hysterectomy, but I had felt so battered. Honestly, I was like, please, I can't take another surgery right now. Like physically, I was being really bad after the surgery, and and I gained all this weight because I had like really bad allergic reactions. I remember there was a time when I was on chemotherapy and my girlfriend had come up from New York and she's like, "Make us go Starbucks," because both of us love Starbucks. And we went to Starbucks and I ended up in the emergency room. It wasn't Starbucks that caused it, but it just happened. So what would happen after my chemotherapy treatment? Like that was the first chemotherapy treatment. Because I remember I still had hair. Um, I had a really bad allergic reaction. And so they would just pump me with steroids to kind of prevent the allergic reaction, to suppress the allergic reactions. And so that caused me to gain weight during chemotherapy. So after chemo, which is why I had so much pain, and then I threw the tamoxifen in there, my body was just really inflamed. Um, So that was in December. I did a polypectomy, removed the polyps. I was off tamoxifen. I'd stopped talking to my oncologist because I was trying to reach him, and his secretary was not very kind to me. And I just said, "Really? So you're gonna deal with me? All right, no problem. I'm not going to call you back." And I told him when he finally caught up with me, I said, "Listen, I don't want to hear anything you have to say because I'm going to treat this cancer myself. I'm going to do all natural therapy." And anyway, he kind of stalked me, and eventually, like, I'd stopped taking all his calls and things like that. Um, but one day he called me from a private number and we spoke, and I laughed because he said, "Hey, this is Jeff." And I said, "Hey, Jeff." I thought it was this guy that I'd worked with before. And he's like, "Jeff Myers." And both of us kind of started laughing. And he's like, "Are you hiding from me?" And anyway, so we started having rekindled our relationship, and he understood where I was coming from. It wasn't really him; it was his office. Like, I was trying to reach him. I'm going to emergency room every day, and they say, "Nobody not treating you because you're a cancer survivor and recent cancer survivor." And they're like, "Well, we can't give you the drugs, which is progesterone, to stop the bleeding, unless your oncologist say we can give you. But we can't reach the oncologist because his stupid secretary is blocking my oncologist from him." So he didn't even get the messages, right? Um, so that's one of the other things I tell people: you have to advocate for yourself.
Yeah.
You have to advocate for yourself. Because I knew something wasn't right. I'm like, listen, it cannot be normal for me to be bleeding like this, right? So anyway, I went back on the drugs after the polypectomy. And again, the tamoxifen, the crazy things to me, the bleeding started back again. Like, I felt like I was dying. And remember you mentioned that I had a Peloton, and I could probably use my Peloton a good week out of the month. The other 3 weeks, I just felt too sick. I was too anemic. And so in August, I had a hysterectomy. Um, Dr. Myers, God bless him still, like, he's very patient as well, because a lot of doctors want to do this. And that's their training. Like, he's patient with me. So he feels very strongly I should remain on the tamoxifen for at least the first 5 years, which is what they tell you to do is for 5 years. Some people stay on it longer. I don't want to be one of those persons. So I'm going to try and fix this estrogen imbalance that my body is dealing with. And so I had a hysterectomy to deal with the bleeding. And, in my heart, I just believe that that is the last of it. That is, I didn't feel that way after chemotherapy or anything like that, because I felt so sick. But now I feel well. I feel strong. I'm getting stronger every day, doing some good Peloton workouts, having a lot of fun with that, riding with my girlfriends, really enjoying that. Um, Getting stronger, my iron count is a lot better. So yeah, I feel good, and I'm doing well.
Awesome.
So, for persons who are joining us for the first time, you may be wondering, like, if we don't have much to say, like, we're not talking with them voice there.
We
And
got a whole pile of questions.
usually
Oh my God.
Yeah, we actually have a script with a bunch of questions for today.
we chat and chat, and I tell you the truth. And first thing, me have to come off my screen for ugly cry.
Yeah.
Step on the screen
Every
and
time you saw us come
cry.
on.
But the thing that really is amazing about tonight is, in your bio, you describe yourself as this everyday person, and but you're an extraordinary human being. You just are.
Oh,
And
thank you for saying that.
you have this journey that you have shared with us and taken us on. It makes you stop and think, because at each juncture, you are finding the blessing, you're celebrating, you're sharing, and the people around you. I mean, that scripture verse which I said, there is no fear in love, perfect love cast out fear.
Yep.
And I think, regardless of whatever any of us are going through, and we think of all the things that we battle up and we keep, and we tell two people and leave them for dead with it, because them is like, me need to share it with somebody. And it's the fear. It's a fear. But when we're able to reflect, release, allow that love, we are able to love ourselves so much better, but to love the other persons around us. You know, when you talked about just recognizing too that it wasn't easy for your husband, and you call him friend them and you say, you guys gotta jump in, handle this. It's not like he has to be keeping this secret. You still
Yeah.
went out and enjoyed your vacation. You're still thinking about your children. You're still thinking about your mother. You know, you don't just say, it's my mother. She need for us pack up the things and come to Canada and go through chemotherapy. You're grateful. So there's gratitude, there is love, there is facing the fear and loving through the fear and loving the people around you and loving life and taking it all as just this part of a teaching journey. Andrina, you are an extraordinary human being.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you so
Aw.
much.
And you know what? While this was going on towards the end, I was like, let me look back at these messages from Andrina. From the first one was from November 21st, 2019. And one thing about Dreams is that she kept you informed every step of anytime something major was happening, which reminded me a lot about like Naja too, right? So you didn't have to keep coming back and asking what's going on, which I know can be
It's a
immensely
hard
draining
conversation
and
for people to
taxing,
ask.
right?
Yeah.
So you just were always a step ahead and you just kept everybody informed with all the details so that no, it's just for us to give the support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know that, this, because there's a second Bible verse. Whom shall I send and who will go for us? And I said, here am I, send me. And your journey, your calling is you saying, God, use me. And
Yeah.
Andrea, I think the Lord has used you powerfully tonight.
Amen.
Thank you so much.
I'm getting WhatsApp messages
Me
and
too. My phone will stop blow up.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, Dreams, Kimmy Lou messaged me. She's just like, okay, you guys need to start this show earlier. But
no,
Gina's story was so great.
And
yeah,
I know Tarek is going to message me or call me right as we're done.
Yes.
you you
And
you are
see,
you're a
most of
blessing.
these people that they're talking about, like, so I'm a country girl. I acquired these friends from my husband, and I acquire them and I take them as my own.
Yes, because you know them not going anywhere.
Yeah, so all of these people, Naomi and Catherine as well, they're
Joma
my
and
husband's
Joma
friends.
used to live on Kingsway and I lived on Queensway. But
Right.
those Wilma's boys, those were our friends. So
Yeah, and we used to swim together.
Yes, that's true.
and Joma was a swimmer too. So I mean,
Yep.
not saying I was
I
a
don't
swimmer,
know
but
if you'll be able to see the messages in the chat.
Yeah.
Fiona Dunkley says, I always ask for you. I cried so much. Thanks for sharing your story. God bless you.
Aw.
Thanks for those Bible verses. And you know what I think? What is just so powerful? Because nobody not cry, because they say, Lord, woe unto Andrina. It just make you have to stop and look at your life and think about all today where you quarrel about this and miserable of yourself. And you say to yourself, I mean, you've just given us life. You've
Yes.
just like
yeah,
pumped us up to face things in with a whole new perspective, but just a whole new appreciation for God and what God is doing, even in what appears to be the worst kind of news.
Yeah.
As he said, it was a blessing.
Yeah, no, it was really a blessing for me. And I mean, there's so many people that I wish I could just call them out by name. I saw Lisa Banton's name pop up.
yeah,
And Lisa would literally calendarize my chemotherapy treatments and she would check in with me, and I guess because she's a doctor and she had that awareness. And I had so many people just poured into me. He just poured into me. So many free consultants, radiation oncologist, breast surgeon in New York. I have a pathologist who was a breast cancer survivor herself uh, from Yale University. I mean, I just was surrounded by so much support and still am. And I try to pay that forward now to people
yeah.
who are going through breast cancer themselves. I really advocate for good health. I try to help people with like, I put so many people on juicing and things like that. If I cannot get the juice up for them and said, you have to do this thing, this is what I'm telling you to do. Um, and so, it's not always easy, and some days I break down and I allow myself to do that. Thankfully, I have
Mhm.
Jomo who is very supportive. Um, but I'm intentional about it, and I try to be intentional about the people that I have in my life. Like that little riding crew that I have, my Jamaican girls. I mean, I look forward to our Thursday or Saturday rides. They're like they give me life. You know, there's this thing that they say on Peloton. There's this instructor. Her name is Robin, and she said, "Girl, reach up and fix your sister's crown." You know, and I feel like I just have so many sisters who are always fixing my crown. You know, and
Aw.
I'm grateful, really, really grateful for that. Yeah.
Well, we can't thank you enough. And I know that there's some people who don't love bathe and so like ready for go bathe, right?
Ready for go bed now.
Yeah.
Andrea, I mean, thank you. Thank you. Deshane says, phenomenal woman, such a beautiful story. And she's here helping young women and making them aware of the signs to look for. May God continue to just bless you in every area of your life, to bless your family, to bless you with wisdom, to bless your tongue as you continue to share your story and not just inspire, but also help us to make some better decisions on
Yes.
detection. We could not have had a better guest for this show. I mean,
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
yeah,
Thank
I
you.
mean,
wow.
we almost hit the 2 hour mark, guys.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
I'm
And
so
it's so
sorry.
funny. We're like,
Here,
guys, we
Andrea,
have to start
no
keeping to our 1 hour.
sleep.
We're gonna end at 9 o'clock,
Yeah.
and we
Mm-hmm.
just could not
And
stop.
Kathy popped down. She
Yeah,
is
we're
so
like, we're so tired. We're gonna
this.
keep
Because
it
I
to
was
the one
tired, so I
hour
told Joma that.
schedule,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
and we just
And
couldn't.
and
You know,
1 hour
I
and
presented at work today.
40
I actually presented on this topic at work today at lunchtime. So I was saying to Joma, boy, I'm tired, you know, like I don't even
Wow.
know how it going to feel. So, but anyway, I didn't feel tired. So
You were
Thank
We're
amazing. Thank
so
you so much,
grateful.
Andrina.
thank you. You're very welcome. I'm grateful for the platform and for everybody to be able to hear this message of early detection. So thank you, ladies. You're awesome.
Thank
Thank
you. We'll see you
Blessings and
soon.
love. Yeah. Love you guys.
Love you too. Wow.
Listen, I can't.
Listen, I was trying to keep it together, because when I see Catherine
You
wiping,
know how much
wiping,
time I come off
Rochelle
of the
gone off
camera.
camera, I'm like, someone has to hold it together on this show.
no, and
And
you
then
know
this one, I make the announcement. I'm coming off now to go and ugly cry. I'm like,
mhm. No, you know when you face that jump and make up, so you know it's not going to be just a smooth tears
you need to see
falling.
me breathe. I keep
No,
exhaling. Like, don't bother with the balling. Don't bother with the balling.
Yeah,
Marina is just a phenomenal human being.
So
God bless.
it
before
was
we forget that
amazing.
we are still live, because
Yeah, so, right.
guys,
So we
after
normally do this.
every
You know what
show,
we're doing right now, guys? We actually did
yeah,
it when we come off camera. So guys, thank you so much for joining us. I mean, this was such an inspirational and instructional Detour Essentials live with Andrena McMayo, breast cancer thriver. We just want you to keep her in your prayers as well as she continues this journey. And just really for the women that are watching and the husbands or boyfriends that are watching as well,
our friends.
or friends, rewatch this episode and remember some of the signs to look out for, even not related specifically to your breast, but just signs that are affecting your body, and
Yeah.
check it out to see what's happening. I mean, Andrina gave us a wealth of knowledge and insight into a lot of the details about what
Yeah.
someone that has breast cancer goes through. Yes, we hear about the mammogram and we hear about the biopsy, but there are some terms and things that I never heard about before in my
Understood.
life, the
Yeah.
grading and everything. So this was really, really, and because she's as she said, she loves to research,
She's a
and
researcher.
she's Miss Google. So, she has all the information. So I know she's one of those individuals that is willing to share her knowledge and experience. So you can feel free to, if you want to get in touch with her, you can reach out to us and we'll give you her details. The best way to get in touch with her. She does have a YouTube channel. Honestly, I can't remember the name of it right now, but we'll get it and we'll send it out when we do our post after this emerge, so you can get in contact with her and you can actually watch some of the episodes that she had on our YouTube channel where she's talking more about this journey. So thank you guys again. If you're watching emerge for the first time, thank you. You can catch us every Wednesday, 8 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. And we just encourage you to have a great rest of this month. Guys, we have 2 months left to go in the year. That's crazy. But guess what? You have a lot more time to catch up and watch all 5 seasons of Emerge Detour Essentials live when we go on break. And rewatch some of the great episodes we had in this specific season. So thank you so much. And we'll see you again next week, Wednesday at 8 o'clock.
Bye, everybody.